Rome is a great city to visit, and here are some tips to help you get the most out of it. Tip number one is get out of Rome. I know I just told you to go to Rome, and the first tip is get out of Rome, because in a day there's a lot of great stuff to see just outside of the city. And especially if you go like northwest, there's beautiful monasteries to see, there's great cities on rocks and nature and just driving along. Great to get out of Rome. Tip number two, you might want to rent a car. Now lots of people tell you don't do it because it's insane to be driving in Rome. Well, on the insanity spectrum, 1 being a quiet day in Iowa and 10 being rush hour in Hanoi on a motorcycle, I would think Rome would rate it like a 5. So yeah, it's doable, but you kind of have to know what you're doing. But renting a car can be a great option for a day trip. And cars can be rented here for like 22 euros online if you go something like rental cars or something. If you go to the desk at the central train station, you'll pay a heck of a lot more. Tip number 3, if you have a car, parking in Rome, they say it's hell, and in reality it's not that bad. Street parking, you just have to drive around a little bit and search, and you can usually pay for like €1 an hour, up to 8 or 10 at night. So overnight parking, which I had to do, isn't that bad if you're comfortable with street parking. Otherwise, yeah, it might get a bit expensive if you have to go into a parking garage. So I would recommend, if you rent a car, rent it just one day so you don't have to deal with parking. Let's see, tip number 4, use the electric bicycles you can rent on the spot instead of renting a motorcycle or a scooter. Renting a scooter or a moped starts at 35 euros or more, so it's quite expensive. And it's not always that convenient to be on wheels. I just found walking around a lot better, but when you get tired, something like an electric bicycle can really help you out. They're available by companies like Jump, and I know it's from Uber and they're evil, but still, it's very convenient when you're too warm or don't walk anymore. Just grab your phone and the app. You can unlock the bike for 50 cents, and then it's 20 cents for every minute, I think. Could be a great option, renting an electric bicycle. Tip number 5 is select your district before you select your hotel. Do you want to be near the shops? Then north of Old Town is the place to be. Do you want to be in Old Town but have to deal with all the touristy food places? Then of course in Old Town. If you want to have bars and local restaurants available to you, something like Trastevere, I hope I pronounced that remotely correct, would be the place for you. Or if you're like me and you're a bit lazy, I selected the Central Station Termini area, which isn't a great area, but it's quite convenient. If you want to go back to your hotel, basically all of public transportation ends up at Central Station. Right, so select the district or the area before you select the hotel. Tip number 6 is check the opening hours. I haven't found any standard here in Rome. It might open at 8, 8:30, 9, 9:30, 10, or whenever. And for example, Forum Romano, they'll kick you out at 3:30, which was annoying, and other places may stay open until 8. So check before you go, and even that's not a guarantee. Tip number 7, book some things in advance, like the most touristy things like the Colosseum or the Forum Romano. You don't want to be spending time in line, and those lines can be huge in summer. So book some things ahead. Tip number 8, if you're here in winter or off season, you might want to find something to do at night. Now normally here in Rome, of course at night you go out for dinner and you just sit outside and enjoy the late sun or the shade. In winter you might want to find a place to go to at night. I haven't found that many, so you might have to search a little bit and plan accordingly. Tip number 9, water is available basically everywhere for free from different taps outside. Toilets, however, are a different challenge. They're not that many and they aren't too clean, and when you do go in, you might find that there's no lock on the door. I've had that happen, or it was on the first door you entered. You might not be able to throw paper into the toilet. When you need the water to wash your hands, there might be water that's a foot pedal down there. It's just a little different than you're expecting to. I've heard there's even an app to find toilets in Rome. My strategy always was, though, just walk to a hotel and ask them if you can use the toilets. They're usually quite friendly about it, and they're usually quite clean. Tip number 10 is to skip some things. Yeah, there's way too much to see in Rome anyway, and lots more of the same old things, which are amazing and beautiful, but you can't see it all. I had to go to the Colosseum, so I did in a tour, and I love the Colosseum from the outside. From the inside was beautiful too, but I could have done with that. I rather would have spent more time in the Forum Romano, which I found to be way more interesting actually. So make your choices. Can't see it all, better make a selection. Tip number 11 is about food. I was expecting to have amazing food everywhere for normal prices because it's Italy and the food is fantastic everywhere. Well, I had enough mediocre food to be sure that's not the case, especially because there's lots of restaurants here that beg you for a 5-star review, which kind of spoils the whole TripAdvisor thing. Everything here is basically 4.5 and 5 stars, so take that with a huge grain of salt when you check a review. Rather go with your own instincts. And I found that the difference between paying like 9-10 euro for a pasta versus 14, yeah, that's the area when the stuff really starts to get really good food. Trust your own gut and don't go for the cheapest thing, I think. Unless it's coffee, that was great everywhere. House wines were great everywhere. And when you go to one of those local places where they have the pizza, where they cut it up with scissors and then sell it to you by the gram, that's usually quite good stuff too. I can usually trust them to do a good job with food. Tip number 12, these are some standard tips you get in every travel video, but if you haven't seen them, learn a couple of the local words. That usually helps. People really like that. And of course, if you don't know where to eat, just follow the local kids. They usually go to a cheap place with great food. These are some standard tips, but I hope the rest of the tips you enjoyed and helped you out to go to Rome a little bit. Romans, by the way, very friendly people. If you don't know, just ask. If you have any comments, corrections, or recommendations yourself, put them in the comments below. I'll read them, but more importantly, everybody watching the video can check out even more interesting information right there in the comments. Thanks so much for watching. Safe travels and peace.